Power isn't what most people think it is. Most of us imagine powerful people as the loudest person in the room. The one giving orders. The one with the expensive suit. The fancy car. The impressive title. The millions of followers. But here's something strange. Have you ever met someone who barely spoke, yet somehow controlled the entire conversation? Or someone who walked into a room, and without saying a word, everyone seemed to notice them? No announcements. No bragging. No need to prove themselves. Just presence. That's the kind of power most people never understand. Because real power isn't about forcing people to listen. It's about becoming someone people naturally listen to. And the fascinating part is that psychology has been studying this for decades. Researchers have discovered that the most influential people often behave in ways that seem completely ordinary. In fact, many of the habits that make someone powerful are the exact opposite of what most people try to do. Today, we're going to uncover 7 psychological principles that quietly separate truly powerful people from everyone else. Once you understand them, you'll begin noticing these patterns everywhere. In business, in politics, in friendships, even in your own life.
Let's begin.
The first secret is surprisingly simple. Powerful people don't chase attention. Think about social media for a moment. Everyone is trying to be seen. Posting constantly. Explaining themselves. Showing every achievement. Sharing every opinion. It's almost as if the louder someone becomes, the more invisible they feel. But powerful people usually move differently. They don't feel the need to announce everything they're doing. They let results speak first. Imagine 2 coworkers. One constantly talks about how hard they're working, how busy they are, how valuable they are. The other simply gets things done. Never complains. Never seeks recognition. Then promotion day arrives. Who do you trust more? Most people choose the second person. Because confidence rarely asks for attention. Insecurity often does. Here's what most people don't realize. The more you seek validation, the more you communicate that you don't already have it. Powerful people understand something different. Attention earned is stronger than attention requested. And that changes everything. The second psychological secret is silence. Most people are terrified of silence. The moment a conversation pauses, they rush to fill it. They explain more. Talk faster. Reveal too much. Powerful people don't. They're comfortable letting silence exist. Think about the last difficult conversation you had. Maybe someone criticized you. Maybe someone challenged your opinion. What was your first instinct? To defend yourself. To explain. To justify. Now imagine doing nothing. Imagine simply looking at the other person. Thinking for a moment. Then responding calmly. That silence completely changes the emotional dynamic. Because silence creates uncertainty. And uncertainty creates attention. People start wondering what you're thinking. They begin listening more carefully. This is why experienced negotiators often stay quiet after making an offer. The silence makes the other person uncomfortable. And uncomfortable people usually start talking, often revealing information they never intended to share. Silence isn't weakness. Used correctly, it's one of the strongest psychological tools you have.
Now here's where things become even more interesting.
Powerful people almost never react immediately. Imagine someone insults you. Most people fire back instantly. Emotion takes control. But powerful people create space between the event and their response. That tiny pause changes everything. Psychologists call this response inhibition. The ability to interrupt an emotional impulse before acting. It sounds simple, but it's incredibly rare. Because emotions want speed. Wisdom prefers patience. When someone controls your emotions, they control you. That's why manipulative people love provoking reactions. Anger, fear, jealousy, embarrassment. The moment you react automatically, you've handed them the steering wheel. Powerful people quietly take it back. They ask themselves one question. Is this worth my energy? Sometimes the answer is yes. Most of the time, it isn't. That emotional discipline creates something people instinctively respect. Stability. and people naturally trust stability. The fourth principle is something almost everyone misunderstands. Powerful people aren't trying to win every argument. At first, that sounds ridiculous. Isn't winning the point? Actually,
No.
because arguments aren't just about facts. They're about ego. The average person argues to prove they're right. Powerful people argue to understand. Or sometimes, they don't argue at all. Imagine trying to convince someone the sky is blue. If they refuse to believe you, would arguing for 3 hours really change anything? Probably not. Sometimes walking away communicates more confidence than saying another word. Powerful people know the difference between conversations worth having and conversations designed to waste their energy. Not every invitation to fight deserves acceptance. And that's incredibly difficult for the ego to accept. The strongest people don't need the last word, because they don't measure their value through someone else's opinion. Now let's talk about something that completely changes relationships. Scarcity. Human psychology values what isn't constantly available. Think about luxury brands. They don't try to sell to everyone. Exclusive clubs, limited editions, private memberships. They're all built on one psychological principle. Scarcity creates value. Powerful people unconsciously apply this principle to themselves. Not by playing games, not by pretending to be busy, but because their life genuinely has priorities. They don't immediately answer every message. They don't cancel their plans for everyone. They don't become endlessly available.
Why?
Because they respect their own time. And something fascinating happens. Once people realize your time is valuable, they start treating it that way too. The opposite is also true. When you're always available, people unconsciously assume your time isn't worth much. The lesson isn't to become distant. It's to become intentional. Your attention is one of the most valuable things you own. Spend it carefully. Now here's a psychological principle that surprises almost everyone. Powerful people make other people feel powerful. Most people assume influence comes from talking about themselves, their achievements, their knowledge, their experiences. But truly influential people ask questions. They listen. They remember names. They make others feel understood.
Why?
Because everyone wants to feel important. Think back to the most memorable conversation you've ever had. Was it with someone who talked endlessly about themselves? Or someone who genuinely listened to you? People rarely remember every word you said, but they'll always remember how you made them feel. This is why some people become unforgettable. Not because they're fascinating, because they make everyone else feel fascinating. Ironically, the less powerful you try to appear, the more powerful you often become.
Finally.
Let's talk about the biggest psychological secret of all. Powerful people don't need everyone to like them. This may be the hardest lesson in the entire video. Most people spend their lives managing other people's opinions. They avoid saying no, avoid conflict, avoid disappointing anyone. They slowly trade authenticity for approval. But approval is addictive. The more you chase it, the more you need it. Powerful people understand something different. Respect lasts longer than approval. Approval often disappears the moment you stop giving people what they want. Respect remains even when people disagree with you. That doesn't mean becoming rude, or arrogant, or selfish. It simply means making decisions based on values, instead of applause. Because the moment your happiness depends on everyone's approval, you've given everyone control over your emotions. Real power begins when that control ends. So let's put everything together. Powerful people don't chase attention. They let silence work for them. They control their reactions instead of their emotions controlling them. They don't waste energy trying to win every argument. They value their own time. They make other people feel important. And they never sacrifice their values just to be liked. Notice something interesting. None of these habits require money, status, fame, or extraordinary talent. They're psychological choices. Small behaviors repeated consistently over time. Anyone can develop them, including you. The truth is, power has very little to do with controlling other people. Real power is learning to control yourself. Because once you master your emotions, your attention, your words, and your time, other people begin responding to you differently. Not because you demanded respect, because your behavior naturally earned it.
So here's my challenge for you.
Choose just one of these principles. Not all 7. Just one. Practice it this week. Maybe it's becoming comfortable with silence. Maybe it's waiting 5 seconds before reacting. Maybe it's saying no without feeling guilty. Start small. Stay consistent. And watch what changes. Because the most powerful transformation doesn't happen when you learn to control other people. It happens when you realize you've finally learned to control yourself. And that's the kind of power nobody can take away. Thank you for watching.
And I'll see you in the next video.